So I just came back from Collecticon, New Jersey, and I had an absolutely amazing time. I met some really cool panelists, and I also met up with some really cool friends that I made here online. But more specifically, I wanted to talk about the things that I picked up and the trades that I made. And a quick rundown of my budget for Collecticon, New Jersey, it was $750. Now, $440 of that went into signatures. So I was only left over with $310 for picking up cards from various vendors. Well, I only spent $270 for the pickups that I made, and I accomplished this through trading, and I am gonna go over every single trade that I made because it was quite impressive. I ended up with about $1,300 in total value from the pickups I made. But before we get into that, I wanted to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, which is Binders, the binder company. Their binder is seriously super premium. It has a zipper so no dust is gonna go inside, and it's a side loading binder so all of your cards will be secure in there. I filled up this entire binder with so many cards that I traded at Collecticon. It's the perfect binder, especially for trades if you're going to any event. So if you want to get your hands on one, link down below in the description. So we're gonna start things off hot with probably my biggest pickup from the event being this PSA 5 Celebi Gold Star. My main goal going into this event was getting a Gold Star, and I did. Now I'll have my trade somewhere on the screen, but essentially it was a bunch of cards worth around $10 to $20. We had 2 Arceus V-Stars from Crown Zenith in there and a PSA 10 Pikachu from, I believe, Lost Origin, and an additional $55 to make this trade happen. Now for PSA 5, this card looks very, very good. And I can tell from the front, there's not a lot of work I can do on it, but it's the back that caught my attention the most. And this is where most of the negativity from the grade came from. There's something going on the bottom there. I think that came from the machine, so that might not be reversible. And of course, there's plenty of whitening and dings to the edges of the card. But there's actually a lot of dirt on there that I can easily remove with a microfiber cloth. And getting all of that dirt and grime off of this card might be the difference of 1 or 2 grade points. I made this trade with So2 Bros. You can check them out on Instagram. Huge shout out to them. Speaking of big trades, I did a massive trade with no cash for this Charizard holo from Crystal Guardians. I don't think there was a card in that trade above $50, but let's take a closer look at this Charizard, and my goodness, does it look clean. There is just a tiny bit of whitening on the back. I think this is a really good candidate to get a PSA 8 on. I'm personally hoping on a 9, but I don't think we're going to get that with what's going on this corner here. I'd be very happy with an 8 though. And this card is just so iconic. I had this in my childhood collection that I unfortunately parted ways with when I was way too young to understand how cool this card was. Speaking of Charizards, I traded my Charizard V alternate art from Brilliant Stars for these 2 bad boys right here. Now I also traded an Umbreon V alternate art from Evolving Skies as well. And I know that trade might seem a little bit unfair for essentially $240 worth of cards right here, but I was very, very certain that both of those cards weren't going to get a 10, and they might not even get a 9. And I say that because there was some issues with some whitening on the back from those cards, and I think there was just a slight ding on the Umbreon on the very top, but we made the trade happen and I'm very happy about that. The next big pickup that I made was this Test Tube Mewtwo, one of my favorite arts out of the Sun and Moon era, and I did not have this in my collection. The trade I did for this was $60 cash plus some other various cards, including full art Mewtwo's from the same exact set. I thought that was pretty funny. As for the condition, it's from Sun and Moon, so I'm not expecting anything too crazy. There is a little bit of whitening on the back, but it really isn't anything too crazy in my opinion. The vendor was really cool too. He was able to go down on price a little bit to meet me in the middle. They're Tort Finds. You can find them on TikTok. Now I have 2 sets of trades from the same vendor, one that I got on the very first day and the second that I got on the second day. These guys were awesome. They had one of my favorite stands at the event. They are called Picante Trading Card Games. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but there's an image somewhere here on the screen. But let's get into the trades. For the Iron Leaves EX, I did a Primal Groudon EX and I believe $10. Now you might be thinking that's a little bit too crazy, but the whitening on the back of this Groudon was insane. So it was really only worth about 40 bucks. And we came to that agreement, and I'm really glad that I picked up this Iron Leaves. It's one of my favorite artworks from the Scarlet and Violet era. I actually think it is my favorite artwork from Scarlet and Violet. As for these, I traded in an entire ETB filled with various GXs, EXs, and Vs from Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, and Scarlet and Violet. I had no idea how much it was really worth. I was just going to try to offload that and pick up this Steelix because I absolutely love it. This is a personal collection piece for me. But they did their due diligence and they looked into it and they said, hey, you have like $77 worth of in-store credit with this trade-in. So I picked up this legendary collection non-holo Charizard simply because I don't have a Charizard like this. I don't have a Charizard this old in my collection, believe it or not. And just for the cherry on top, I picked up this Rayquaza VMAX. I know I traded this in the Celebi trade, but I traded that at $9. This guy here, very good condition. I picked it up and I was like, hey, I might use it for another trade down the road. But obviously I didn't because it is here in my collection and I'll gladly take it. It's a really cool card. Now this Iono from Paldea Evolved was a bucket list modern card for me to pick up, but I traded in the Garchomp V featuring Cynthia from, is that Astral Radiance? I'm drawing a blank. And also 2 sets of Flareon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon from Brilliant Stars. And on top of that, I did 30 bucks. And that was a fair trade for me. I absolutely love this card, and I do not want to be buying Paldea Evolved just to chase this. The next card I picked up was this beautiful Espeon Prime. I traded in a special delivery Charizard and I think 15 bucks on top of it. But just taking a closer look at this Espeon, it is in very good condition considering how old it is. And again, I know the special delivery Charizard is at about the same value as that Espeon Prime, but the special delivery Charizard I traded it in definitely wasn't going to get a 10. And again, unfortunately, how the market is, it's just not worth it to have 9s and below for modern cards. This one, on the other hand, looks like it's going to be a 10 in my opinion, but the other one, the centering was just way off. So I was really glad to get that off my hands. Another card that I kind of took an L on was this Regidrago V, but on the other hand, this is a card that I really wanted in my collection and I was willing to make that trade happen. The vendor was taking 70% as well, and I tried to talk them up to 80%. That's usually what I try to go for, but I totally understand the percentages, and I think a lot of you guys should as well. They are getting taxed on this. You don't have to pay shipping fees or anything, so at the end of the day, it's worth it in my opinion. And 70% isn't that bad, especially trading cards that I personally don't want for a card that I don't have in my collection with a Lugia cameo. This is a very underrated card in my opinion. Centering looks great. Condition, of course, is going to be good. It's from Sword and Shield, and it's just a really cool card that's hard to pull that's in my collection now. The last card I traded for, along with some packs, was this Scizor from Obsidian Flames. I know it wasn't valued at 34. This is just a hard case that he gave me after the trade because it came from a binder. But this is another one that I kind of took an L on. I gave him a Ampharos EX Japanese that was valued at about $20 after looking closely into it. But again, this was an L that I was willing to take. Me and the vendor just really kicked it off, and he really wanted that Ampharos for his personal collection. He's a huge Ampharos fan, and I literally have 6 other of those exact Ampharos in my collection that are in a little bit better condition too. Now for my last 2 pickups, these 2 cards I just bought outright. I wanted these in my personal collection. I think they're so cool, and I bought them for $100 total. So these were all the pickups that I made, and I am super happy about it. I was not expecting to do this good. Another thing that I want to point out real quick is that I did get a bunch of cards signed, but I don't have them with me because I submitted them to PSA there at the event. I'm getting them authenticated and graded, and I'm super happy about that. But some of them were really cool. My personal favorites were the Eric Stewart ones because he drew the sunglasses on the Squirtle, and I also got a collab one with Eric Stewart and Dan Green, which was very, very cool. But anyways, that is the recap of Collecticon New Jersey. I'm very excited to go to my next event. So if you enjoyed this content, make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.